is struck, and we're at a convention, and I saw her, and I just had to say hi and make my impression. And then quickly after that, we started riffing with each other, and we got along really well. And she was writing and publishing a children's book for morals and lessons for children, which I thought was really sweet. It's Noble Beings is her book, and she gave me a copy of it the first time that we met, and I gave her a copy of my book, and we have little signatures for each other in there that were kind of elusive to wanting to know each other more. And I was really attracted to her and thought she was very interesting. We instantly started having very good conversation, and I could tell she was special. And then later on, like she was mentioning, we were talking when we were dating later. Within the next, week, 2-3 weeks, she started talking about how she really wanted to keep all of the physical aspects of it completely reserved and respected until marriage. And I mean, I hear of this happening, but it's not very common nowadays. And surprisingly enough, I'm a fairly wild guy, but one interesting thing that I realized about this whole thing was I wasn't necessarily understanding that to be the most important thing, or important at all. But when she started talking to me like that, there was something in me that keyed in, and I thought, this is something really special. This beautiful woman, she's looking out for the world. She's concerned about kids and their morality, and she's keeping herself sacred. I thought to myself in that moment, there was something in me that changed, and I thought this was really something special, and I needed to take care of it. And so I kind of respected that, and she, set the pace for that, like traditionally a woman would, and it was very nice for me. And I talked to friends about it, and they were surprised in the same way. They said, how do you know all these things if you'll get along and all these other kinds of things? And I said, we'll work it out later. I think it's going to be okay. And it totally worked out exactly like that, and I'm so glad.
That's so good.
Yeah, that's one of my observations, is that we kind of went this other traditional route. I didn't know how to do it, and then it turned out so well to its credit.
That's a concern a lot of people have. They're always like, well, how, that's like a risk, and maybe it is. But something you said in there I think is really, really important, particularly for women to hear. I think it's what you're saying is really important for men too. But for women, the fact that I sort of offered this invitation, and there was something in you that resonated with it. Like, yes, and you respected it. And women are afraid to hold that space,
right? Because
they're afraid they'll be rejected. And in some cases you will be, and that means it's not the right guy.
Yeah.
And the right guy will resonate with that invitation and be like, yeah, let's take that road.
Yeah. It definitely made it stronger. It made my attraction stronger. And also then later on, once we got married, it was so much more special that we share those kinds of things, and it's what we're supposed to do. It was then turned from something that I shouldn't be doing, that we shouldn't be doing, into something that we're encouraged to do and have children and be fruitful and multiply. So then it made it that much better. And in that time too, obviously, we went dancing. We went on a lot of really long walks. She lived in New Braunfels, Texas at the time, and we walked all over New Braunfels for hours, and we danced, and we didn't drink either. So it was really nice. So it was very quality time. And by I remember a couple of weeks into it, I knew that this was going to be something special. I went back to my neighbor, who is my best friend pretty much, Ray, and I told him that I said, I'm going to marry this girl. And of course, he's Filipino, and I won't do the accent, but I love Ray. And he said, you have to marry that girl, And I was like, okay, I'm on it. And so it turned out to be really good.
Do you remember that dream you had, like our first week or two of marriage, and there was like the devil or some evil force?
Yes.
And he was trying to tempt you with like this like brothel or like weird stuff.
Yes.
And do you remember what you said to him about us?
I forget, but I do write down my dreams, and I remember this one. There was a big brothel, and I was at some like big meeting of a group that I was a part of, and down in the basement there was someone promising people all of these different types of things, and we'll have this, and we'll take over, and you'll get all of these things will be happening. We're going to take over, and this and that. And I felt like it was a lie, what he was saying. And so I think I pushed against him, and this won't fit together. I have it all written out, but
you told him that aspect of your life, like that whole like fleshy thing he was trying to tempt you with. You said something to him that was between you and Jackie, and that it was a power that we use against him, against the evil forces.
Yeah, the evil was there trying to tempt me. And I said, I have everything that I need with Jackie. And I have that power, and I've reserved it for our family. And it was something that we guarded. And this character that was promising people seemed to be the devil. And he was in the basement. Everyone down there was sad. And I said, why is everyone listening to this person? Look at how sad y'all are. He's doing this to you with these fake promises. And when he came at me, I said, well, I don't need your power. I already have reserved my power. It's something that I share with my wife. And I think he attacked me at one point in front of the people, and I was trying to speak up to free the people that were kind of falling for this hypnosis of this guy with all these promises. And when he came at me, I used my wedding ring and I touched it to him, and it burnt him, and he walked away. And so it was very interesting.
It's pretty symbolic about your view of family in general, that it is like it's sort of the core of everything, and it's the thing that is being attacked the most right now, like family structure.
For sure.
And that it's that having that marriage being the core of family is a power against principalities and darkness.
Yeah. Yes, I think that, as a metaphor, life is like a tree, and we're the branches and tree on that tree, and it continues and it grows and grows, and that growing happens from children and people being born and spreading life, and it thrives by people sharing God's mentality of the holy armor and this kind of stuff that makes them resilient, and they are stronger people, and they are able to carry on with their kids further, and the tree grows and grows and grows through this kind of recursive mechanism. And so a man and a woman having a strong bond and keeping sacred between themselves and carrying on that energy is actually the core of the tree of life, and maybe even God's project in this plane of existence. And so I believe that some entities, some sorrow, misery loves company, evil, whatever the antithesis of any given plight would be, aims not just to do bad things in general, but always ends up aiming its target on this tree of life, and which inadvertently turns out to be aiming it at the relationship between men and women, and ultimately also targeting children. And so there's this spreading of life, like, seeds in the wind, and then there's a suppression of life, which is, these two countervailing forces, and marriage and children are always ultimately going to be the target of this type of thing. So that's why lots of these random crimes and different mentalities that are kind of affecting society, if you boil them down, they end up targeting ideologies. they end up targeting family and they end up targeting children. And I don't believe that that's a coincidence. I actually think it is the point of both sides. So, yeah.
It's, in a way, it's such a rebellious, powerful thing to do, to have like a traditional, strong marriage. You know what I mean? Like it's counterculture, like you were saying last night. Like,
well, tell me this too. As far as today's society and how things kind of line up, it is kind of about passing these knowledge, these lessons of focus on the longer term and God and our purpose and maybe gender and some of these other things down to children. Your family seemed to have some of these things and has raised you in a certain way. Do you have any notes on maybe your childhood and what you were dreaming of marriage?
Oh gosh, well, it was interesting because I was raised by a single mom. My grandparents were together. I had a relationship with my dad, but my mom had to carry both gender roles in a way,
Mine too.
Yeah. But she always encouraged me to be married. She never, poo-pooed my like crushes or anything like that, so long as they were at a distance. But I was raised in a very strong religious environment, and I had actually been born out of wedlock. So it was like this tension, and I felt like my grandma was like extra careful. I think both my mom and my grandma were both extra careful to like always point that out to me, not in a shaming way, but like to make sure I understood that like babies followed marriage, like that's how it was supposed to be. And I knew in my religious community that I was very loved and appreciated by everyone, but that I was also kind of like this black sheep. So I don't know if that's where you expected me to go with my answer, but but that was a part of it, that like this internalized like a little bit of a conflict with that. And I always really wanted family structure and always wanted to be married. It just took a while for it to happen. But my mom was real strong about, helping me value what I brought to the table and value myself as a girl and a woman, that I would be a good wife and to know that and be strong in that.
Yeah.
Life was, challenging. Life beat me up a little bit, as it does, but that's how I was raised with that. Do you want to
I think you did very well with it.
Thanks,
I guess the reason that I asked that is because we end up talking about that a lot, our families and what we want for our children and everything, and also our observations on society and how people, in general are raising kids, the general notion of raising kids nowadays, and how it may reflect on the next generation or make the next generation. And so I always like to hear about that from people, and I know where you're coming from, but maybe, other people would be interested.
Yeah.
And I have a similar thing. I was raised by a single mom, and she was very good. And my father was also a cool guy. I liked him, and everybody got along, but we didn't have a traditional family structure. They were divorced. And so, I think part of the reason I'm interested in it, like lots of other people, is because that I feel did translate into my dating life. And I didn't really know what to look for in women. I didn't really know. I kind of always wanted to get married, but I thought, well, it'll happen. I'll meet a girl, she'll be cool, and it'll just happen, I'll be married. But then some point through my life, I realized I didn't really know. I knew how to date and I knew how to party or whatever the thing would be, but I didn't know how to configure my life to find a wife that was, really trustable, that I thought would show the right things to kids. And so I started learning that a bit late, I feel, in my life. And I realized that my parents didn't really show me that specific aspect. So I always wonder how people's parents talk to them about these things, the example that their parents gave, like mine were divorced,
Yeah.
and many people are. And so,
I've heard an example that when a man is ready for marriage, like truly ready, like you were, where you started asking yourself, what do I need to do to change my life to be in the right position for this? That men are kind of like a peacock, where, it's the male peacock that's very, beautiful and has the but that basically that it is the man that makes that shift. It is not that, I want to change for this person. There's that too, but that's not the first step. There's the man's self-will to do that, and then it makes him sort of like Velcro. It makes him ready to recognize and find someone. And I think that's also where a lot of women get burnt out, because they're always trying to inspire that or tug on someone's shirt sleeve to make them ready, throughout their 20s or whatever, and it doesn't happen. And I just think that's a beautiful example. Like, the man has to be ready, and then he's receptive, and he'll actually take, the action to make it happen.
Yeah.
Do you relate to that? Do you feel like you were a bit of a peacock? Is Dave Rubin here? We got to get out of the studio.
No, we got 5 minutes.
Okay.
And so, Dave
Rubin's kicking us out of the studio.
So maybe on that note, we to wrap up some of that, we both want to be sharing those kinds of message as we build our family and stuff. We kind of want to share that with our communities and different things. So there hopefully will be more to that on come. We have to come. We have a homestead in Lampasas, Texas, where we're building a lot of good things and structuring family. We have chickens and collard greens. So we're off to a good start. And maybe I would like to ask you what kind of got you, when I first met you, you were writing a children's book, you had a YouTube channel, and you had some success with that, and you're a streamer kind of in your community. And so what kind of, if you want to share with the audience, what kind of got you into that?
Sure. Well, yeah, since we're here in the Locals studio, I just want to share a story I've shared before, but it's never been so meaningful and significant, that my YouTube channel started because I was so inspired by a Dave Rubin episode. He had a live stream that had some technical difficulties getting off the ground with Ben Shapiro and Jordan Peterson. And so we had these like diverse array of men, like an agnostic, a Christian, a Jew, and they're there like intellectually throwing this ball around, and it was so interesting. And they were grasping at something, some coming together of the personal and the societal. And I felt what they were missing was just the contribution of a female voice, and perhaps one who was familiar with the Baha'i faith, which is my background. And I didn't feel that I was ready to be that woman. If I could have been teleported to that moment, I wouldn't have been ready to toss the ball with them. But I thought if I get started, maybe one day I will be. And so that's how I started my YouTube channel. And I think I'm still on that journey, but here we are in one of his studios that he helped create. So, and thank you, Hubstein, for helping make this happen.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to tell everybody, all the men out there, to straighten up and fly right and get your life in order and find a good woman and put a ring on it. You know what I mean?
Amen.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, if you enjoyed this conversation, please comment, ask questions. Maybe we'll have some more. This was a first flight for us. It was really fun. And thank you for being with us. And as always, I would like to wish you the best until next time, playing your unique part in making this world a better place. And I'll catch you next time.